Hello, let's chat about Godot. So every year the Godot organization puts out a community poll and asks Godot interested users and hobbyists what they're doing with the tool, how they learned about it, and stuff like that. I did a review of the 2023 poll, and this is the 2024 poll. My name's Asher Rivello. I'm a game dev with over 20 years of experience, the last decade or so with Unity, and I'm doing lots of stuff in other game engines these days as well, including Godot. In my career, I've shipped titles for Xbox, PC, Steam, iOS, Android, lots of different platforms, and created online and in-person courses on game dev as well. Lots of my Godot content, including repos, sample projects, tips, tricks, articles, videos like this one, and more, are all available here at this link. So you can click the link below or follow the URL on the screen and stay up to date with what I got there. So this is the post from the Godot blog. It is now closed. You can no longer take the poll, but I want to compare 2024 results with previous results. So I've got a tab open with the 2023 results just in case I want to check it. And just a note for me, it's got a blue background here. And here's the new poll results for 2024. The poll's closed, so we can't do it together, but we can look at the results. So this one has a yellow background, and I might tab between them. So let's go through and compare what we've got. So the age group of respondents got a majority of 25 to 45-year-olds using Godot. Gender, mostly male respondents. We've got a lot of Europe and North and Central America. Okay. Yeah, like general tech, that's where I'd expect the audience to be. Before using Godot, what other engines are popular? So let's see. I would expect to see Unity and Unreal. Unity has a huge margin ahead of Unreal. And what else we see? Other third-party engine? I'm curious what's in that, because they have a lot of different options here. And last year, I believe there was a really high number of Game Maker. Okay. But no surprises here, with Unity being where most people are coming from. How did you hear about Godot, or when did you hear about Godot? Okay, 2021 or earlier. A little sliver just this year, but I think a lot of people last year. So 2023 is when Godot 4.0 came out, and I think a lot of people got on board with the features of 4.0. When did you start using it? So big amount. I mean, we're only 6 months into 2024, but there's a pretty sizable amount. So that's a lot of growth. How experienced are you? Okay, so we have the biggest chunk here is using it for game jams and published one or more relevant games. So that was something I was interested to see from last year. 2023 had 5.5% shipping. So that means we have even more audience coming in who, I guess because they're new, they haven't yet shipped a title. But also across a lot of these questions, we see it's an indie and hobbyist market here. In what capacity do you use Godot? Okay, yeah, a lot of hobbyists. 4% employed. Okay, so it makes sense. If we only have 4% employed, then there's not a lot of people shipping commercial games. Of course, self-employed people can ship, but it's at a lower rate of success and completion than employed. What kind of projects are you using for Godot? So last year we had 2D and 3D. There was a fourth category, I don't recall. But a lot of this like GUI-based app game. I wonder if a lot of people who are taking this and responding are, yeah, I'm just thinking out loud about this. So the GUI-based stuff is people doing quiz games, menu-driven games, games where you're not necessarily a character walking around in a world, so it makes sense. A lot of that actually. Oh, sorry, that's the rarely. Okay, so regularly we have mostly 2D. I would expect mostly 2D used for Godot. That's just the types of games that we have in the indie audience. What describes your skill set? Okay, this is interesting. This is a new one that was not around last year. Programming, advanced programmers, 2D artists, VFX artists, advanced. So not a lot of advanced video, okay. Marketing. Are you using Godot for AR, VR? So this doesn't have a no answer. I would assume most people are a no. Which category fits your projects? Okay, yeah, I always think this is interesting. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So first person, third person, shooter, platformer. It'd be nice if they ranked these descending order for just readability. Fair amount of RPG, platformer. Now, again, this is projects that have not been completed as well. So many people start projects, but I would be curious to see the same answer for you've completed a game and what was it in. And I would assume that would be platformer, some of the same genres, but I'm just curious. What's the main revenue source? Okay, itch and Steam are way up there ahead of the rest. I don't remember this being such a blowout last year. Let's compare to last year. Let me go over here. This is 2023 with the blue background, and I'm going to go down to revenue. Yeah, here. So not currently any, okay, I see. Not currently is 84%, and this doesn't have a not currently. So yeah. Yeah, I guess in these cases where there's a clear outlier statistically, it would be good if they would ask, are you making money? Yes, no. I would like to see that. Then if you're making money, then answer this question. What are your main revenue model methods? Direct sales, same as up there. Donations pretty big too. But yeah, a lot of direct sales. We have a lot of indie game developers shipping PC Steam, and that's just the place where you're going to see the initial $5, $10, $30 cost of the game is the moneymaker. If it were a mobile market, we would see less of that, and we would see more in-app purchases and ads. 1 to 5, interest in publishing. Okay, this is interesting. I want to see if consoles is on here because famously Godot does not yet proclaim to publish to consoles. You can do it with third-party vendors. Okay, we see itch and Steam are up there, very interested. Epic Game Store, Steam Deck, iOS, Android, Switch, Steam. What is the blue here? Not interested to very interested. Okay, so there is not a lot of interest. Wow, web is really low. So I'm reading this as that PC Steam is clearly the winner, and these ones are all vying for a second. I would like to see one besides PC Steam. What are you wanting to develop for? Because I really want to draw a distinction here. Xbox and PlayStation look identical. Quest, Vision Pro. Again, a lot of not interested is the blue ones. Netflix, not interested. Okay. Do you plan to use networking? Okay, yes. I'm not so interested in this. I find everybody who's learning and as a hobbyist, they want to consider doing multiplayer, but whether they actually do it or not, I'm skeptical. Okay, do you work in a team? No, a lot of working alone. Same with 2023. Do you use version control? Yes, and I don't know what it is I think, okay, version control is a hallmark of real best practices in a game. Any production environment, any commercial environment, without a doubt, 100% using version control. So the fact that there's a percentage here that doesn't know what version control is, I think is a fantastic stat in the following way. It just means we have so many new people, new to software development, who are finding their way through Godot as a way to learn how to do that. As you would mature as a software developer of any type, including games, including Godot, you would learn what this version control is, and it would be part of your daily workflow. But I think it's just another sign of a lot of new hobbyists, a lot of new interest. Which version control do you use? Majority Git, no surprises there. On which platforms do you work? Now, yeah, I remember looking at 2023 and thinking Linux was just outsized. I was very surprised. So here, most people are using Windows, fair enough, but 40? Okay, I guess you can answer more than one because we see adding up to more than 100% here. So maybe people are saying they use Windows and Linux or Mac and Linux. But anyway, I'm still surprised that Linux is this high. What type of Mac do you use? Okay, interesting. What type of Windows version do you use? Okay, 50/50, 10 and 11, that sounds about right. What hardware do you use to run the Godot editor? So Godot is so lightweight as a tool, the editor suite, that you can run it on mobile. You can run it in the browser, which is super cool. So here we've got the majority using desktop and the rest using laptop. I'm actually surprised that there's that much desktop use. I would think with this audience, I would guess there's more laptops. But there's a lot of developing world use, and maybe, no, I'm still surprised. I would think that we would have more laptops. What type of GPU do we got? Okay, so that is, yeah, similar to last year. 5-year-old or more tech is a lot of the audience, so it's nice that Godot can work well. Does your graphics card support hardware accelerated ray tracing? Yes, no, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I would think, okay, 50% has ray tracing. Okay, maybe. When did you buy the hardware you use? Okay, so people are using some pretty old tech for game development. But again, that's the sweet spot where Godot can come in and be a lightweight tool that you can use on more platforms. So that's fantastic. It's good for democratizing the game dev process. What are your main export platforms? So yeah, here again, mind exploded that Linux is this big of an export platform. I need someone to comment below. How is it that 50% of the respondents are exporting for Linux? Am I missing something? Does that mean Steam or Steam Deck? I'm very surprised. And we see 38% on HTML, 5 web, which is fantastic. Which version of Godot do you run most? Okay, so we have a quarter of the population. This is this year, so this is in the last month, halfway through 2024. Still people using 3.5, 3.5. Kind of surprised about that. But okay. Various flavors of 4, and 4.3 is the very latest version. Oh, maybe I'm misreading that. I'm sorry. 4.3 is the 24% blue. Okay, I was thinking that it was this blue. Okay, so again, here we have 3.5. Here we have 4.3. Okay, then I'm surprised people are using that. I would think we would have even more here, but okay, less surprised there. Are you using 4.x for your main project? Okay, yes, that's great. What's their main way of obtaining and using Godot? Okay, the majority go from the official website. Great. What's your preferred language? Okay, most people GD script. A significant amount doing C#. I'm a C# developer coming from Unity and also thinking it is a more mature language than GD script. No problems with GD script, but I think you can create with more options within C#. I have noticed in my 200 or so hours of using Godot and C# that there is some lack of integration. C# doesn't plug in exactly the way that you'd want it. You have to, let's say, build the C# project a bit more often than I would like manually in order to get the editor to behave nicely. I think things like drag and drop for signals into your code base and stuff like that, it works for GD script, but it doesn't work for C#. So there's some little things there. Some of it might be able to be improved within the workflow just by workflow improvements, but as far as I'm concerned, it's like 99% there, but GD script is more fully supported, which makes sense. That's the official language. Do you use libraries to extend Godot? Modules, GD native. See, last year too, when I looked at this, I was a bit confused. So the majority are not using libraries. Okay, so this does not mean plugins. This does not mean add-ons. This is libraries. Okay, interesting. Do you use any plugins or add-ons? The majority, yes. Okay, that's cool. I like to see that. What tools do you most commonly use along with Godot? Okay, Blender, free, open source. I'm not sure if it's open source, but free, completely free to use Blender. That's awesome. ASE Sprite, Audacity is another popular one. This is a good one. What community spaces are you active in? The forums, Reddit, Discord. So a lot of people on Discord. Do you engage with the Godot social media accounts? I don't use it. Not my thing. Would like to see more. Okay, so Reddit and YouTube are big places. Great. Are you active in the Godot spaces? Let's read these ones. Community of a Godot content creator. Great. Please like and subscribe below my channel. I'd love that. Private Godot. Okay, great. Do you contribute to their source code? Okay, so let's see. A lot of people are opening issues. 13% opening issues is fantastic. They're giving back by reporting bugs and asking for new features and stuff like that. But the majority are not contributing code, which makes sense. I would assume most people are just using it, especially with this audience that's hobbyist learning. Do you contribute to the documentation? The majority do not. Do you actively help others in their channels? Okay, I do not help. I help from time to time. I help others regularly. So 6%. It's good for me to think about because as I'm building an audience and looking for people to contribute to my add-ons and plugins in this world, knowing that you've got about 5% of people, 6% of people that are actively contributing. Okay, this is interesting. Did you know you can contribute by testing bugs and feature PRs? I can think of making tickets, reporting issues, new features. I can think of addressing those and submitting them. I can think of being the person PR reviewing on top of them. But I didn't really think about having someone test it that wasn't the creator. But that's cool. It's probably a pretty low friction way for people to come in, pull a PR, test it out on the editor, look at the feature if it's documented well. That's very cool. Do you work at a game development studio? Okay, so this is much more mixed than before. Oh, this is, okay, if you work at a studio. Okay, no. So we've got about 50% saying, hey, I work at a studio and my peers do know about it. They've heard a little bit. They're actively using it. Okay. How satisfied are you with Godot in their way of pacing development, project? Okay, very satisfied. The image of Godot, professionalism, accessibility. I wonder what people think that means, accessibility. Like, how easy is it to use? Okay, image of Godot. Okay, interesting. Are you interested in attending the next or any Godot conferences? The are you interested is a pretty low bar to entry here, but let's see. There's as many people who don't care as care. Cool. If it was to happen, where would you want it to happen? Is Godot based in Boston? It seems like an interesting option to be number one. France, Austria, Montreal, Buenos Aires. I think it was created in Buenos Aires. I'm not sure why Boston's number one, but cool. What months would be most convenient for you to attend? Okay, so last year there weren't questions about the conference, so that's interesting to see here. People would love to see it in July. Now, this poll went out in May or June, so maybe people are just picking the soonest months after the poll, or they're students and they want it to be during summer university break, at least in North America, that's how it would work. How long would you like it to be? 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, okay, 2 or 3 days. I would imagine there's a couple different ways they could organize that. It could either visit several different cities and be 1 or 2 days, even 1 day, really. Or it could be like once a year in one place and be a bit longer because people are going to have to fly from further away to attend that event. But I would imagine that maybe doing several of them in several different places with some of the same speakers and some of the not would be a pretty good way to go. What types of sessions are you most interested in? Okay, workshops, panels, game jams. Finding a job, marketing your project, merch, connecting. Okay, there's a lot of different ones. So let's just talk about these ones. So I have attended lots of different conferences, never for Godot, but in the Unity world, in the game dev world. I've attended E3s many times, the Unite conference from Unity, lots of different other ones, game dev, Flash Forward, and a bunch of ones from way back in the day. And I would say the format of these is usually, 1 long day or 2 days. So over a weekend, let's say a Saturday and a Sunday, 8 hours each. And there's a bunch of 1-hour sessions. Then in addition to those sessions, there's usually an exhibit area where people can come, pay to have a table set up and sell their products if they have some middleware or some tools to sell or products of some sort, and also pitch their indie games. Maybe that's free or cheap to get a table for that, and that would be the kind of marketing your project. Finding a job, I think, you'd have companies that are hiring, they'll pay for a booth as well. Having a game jam sounds like a cool idea, but I don't actually think that's a good use of getting people together. Typically a game jam would be quite extensive time-wise, days long. But I have seen a game jam that led up to an event. So you'd have a Saturday, Sunday conference, as I described, and then maybe the 3 days prior is either introductory lessons for people who are breaking into it so that they can get more out of the weekend by getting some foundational materials, or doing a game jam. But to fly somewhere and show up and then just do a game jam seems like something you could have done remote. But that's just my thoughts about it. Of course, workshops and panels. I think workshops would be more about let's learn XYZ as a group. Maybe you bring your own laptop, maybe you don't. And a panel would be people that talk and debate on stage about a particular topic, like the direction of the rendering in Unreal. Sorry, I said Unity and I said Unreal. Godot, the direction of rendering in Godot. What barriers would prevent you from attending the past ones? Location, obviously, didn't know it existed. I didn't know there was any Godot conferences in the past. Maybe I read one thing in the blog, but I'm pretty new to Godot just this year. Travel restrictions, yeah. I'm also curious, like, why Godot would want to have an in-person event. Just, I don't know about organizing events. When you compare the reach you would get with an online event, synchronous, like this weekend, free anywhere in the world you can attend remotely, that would be pretty cool. And you get a lot more people interested, but maybe you get less commitment out of each person than if you put it in a specific spot. Okay, interesting. Do you contribute to the Godot Development Fund? So this is where you can donate money. No, and I plan on donating. I did, but not anymore. And yeah, so this is due, so I'm present. So 6% due. So I would say 5% I've seen in quite a lot of this. 5% are fully employed and using Godot. 5% are contributing to the Godot code base. Maybe it's not the same 5%. We're also donating to it, but about 5%. So 1 in 20 people that have responded from this community are what I would consider to be like really putting their skin in the game. Godot is helping them make money in their careers. So they have a different level of investment than the average hobbyist. How comfortable are you with following funding sources for the project? With the following funding. Yeah, I remember this question last year. So where, as a Godot user, where would you like Godot to make its money? Individual contributions, most people love that. Companies, government subsidies, merchandise. Merchandise is quite popular. Okay, besides the preference of each individual Godot developer here, I wonder which of these just has more bang for the buck. I would guess if companies are able to sponsor, I wonder how pursuing company money versus pursuing individual money would pan out. Now, why would a company invest money? We've seen some of the big sponsors on the Godot's website are big name tech brands. So I'm going to create Microsoft as an example. I don't know if they're actually giving money, but if Microsoft came in and they were the biggest single donor, like how would people feel about that? That's something I talked about last year. Each of the following is a potential area of growth spending for the Godot Foundation. Okay, so where do we want Godot to spend their money? On education, including documentation. Okay, then separately documentation, advocacy and outreach, engine development, the asset store. I don't know if Godot as an organization or a foundation, if they have their own first-party assets. I don't know about that. And maybe they wouldn't really. They would just put it into the tool itself. But I wonder what money in this category means. Does that mean making the asset library tool better? Because I'm all for that. I would like to have licensing. So if someone pulls from it, they're pulling a particular license that they can't share. And then on top of that, monetize the asset store. Also interesting that they call it an asset store here, not asset lib or asset library, which is what it's called in Godot Editor. Organizations. Okay, so maybe the having it be a conference is a moneymaker. A few minutes ago, I was asking, like, well, why would you even have an in-person event? Which is cool, but it's so much smaller reach. So that's it for the video. It was cool to take a look at the polls. I'd love to do that every year. Did it last year. I'll do it next year as well. And just to see how some of the answers change over time. My takeaways, having compared the two results, is that more people are using Godot this year than last year. More people are using the latest version of Godot. There's less people using Godot as their primary way of making money, which I take to mean there's just new people have joined the community. Like a lot more people have joined in the last year. A lot of them are hobbyists and independent professionals who are, creating a hobby game as a side project or a paid project as a side project, but it's not how they're making their financial money. I wonder what that same answer would be in the Unity world. Unity also has a huge amount of indie devs and a huge amount of hobbyists and students, but I think Godot has more of them. Unity's been around longer. It has been a paid tool for a lot longer, and it takes royalties and several other big decisions that would make them target more of a corporate audience with people who are making paid projects. So I would guess that Unity would have much higher than 5% of respondents would say, I use Unity as my way to make money. What else do I think about this? I think overall it's cool. I would like to see what features in the engine are your favorites? What features in the engine would you like development effort to be spent on? So to see, do people want more nodes, or do people want more? I would want investment in the asset library, as I mentioned, just as a tool to have versioning and dependencies come through better in the way that that's set up. There are some community-based workarounds, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video about way to do versioning and dependency with Godot Asset Lib. That's, I think, what I'll call it. So I'm interested there. And I would also like to see a bit more about, well, actually, now that I think about it, there was some questions about what genre of game are you creating, which is probably a more easy to grok, easy to understand way to answer what I just mentioned. So if people are saying FPS, then 3D and rendering might be more popular. If they're saying, I want to target the web as one of my favorite, then there's some technology choices that would need to go along with that. So I do like the questions they've got there, but I would like to see what in the editor do people like? The fact that you can't drag and drop your windows around. That seems weird to me coming from other tools. You can click one and you can choose snap to this corner, but I would like to just be able to freely drag and drop around. It doesn't make it feel as cool and intuitive. And there's lots of little things in the UI that I feel like are like that for me. So I would have some complaints there. Also, I would be interested, do people like the size of the build that's created with the tool? Which again is much smaller than Unity, but I think that's cool. Thanks for checking out this video, looking at the community poll for this particular year. I'm available for remote contract hire as a game dev and a game development educator. Thanks.